If you're in a brand looking at an agency and you're interviewing him, one of the ways, and Amir kind of said,
like, tell me about an experience. What is going to happen in this situation and how do you handle it?
It's not really asking him how's your communication, because everyone's going to say, oh, my communication's great. But hearing these stories are really important because you're hearing about good things.
We talk human to human, person to person. Every single person, especially like you can yell at me. I have thick skin. I'm a business owner. I don't take anything personally, but it's not fair to my team.
We're going to be able with AI to do more ourselves than previously we could do. And the flip side, the Pirellas of the world are going to be able to go faster and be stronger because of it. So I think what that does is it puts that monthly, in our case, monthly retainer, what's being charged, it starts putting eyes on that because we know that you're able to run faster because of AI, and we know we could jump in and get it from A to F. I think a squeeze overall in the market, I think there'll be a squeeze on what agencies are charging.
It's not hard to become proficient in paid ad. It's not. It's really not. After 5-6 years of you really learning from one of the best people out there, you can bring in another best person out there in-house. Now you have them running it just like normal with the ability to bring on other clients. Same thing with 3PL.
So walk me through, last night we asked you to call an Uber and you like...
I only use Lyft.
Yeah, but like...
Lyft is cheaper though.
Yeah, but so something happened?
Yeah, so I got banned from Uber.
Yeah, because when we pulled it up, it was like...
It says, your account's locked. Like it sent us... So
you tell a bad joke?
Yeah, no. So long story short, like 6-7 years ago, me and my buddies went to the casino in Connecticut, and we were already drinking before then. So we got in the back seat already, feeling good. And the driver was like, please don't. It's a nice car. Don't drink in my back seat. And of course, I drank in the back seat, right? But then I spilled the beer after he warned me about it. So I spilled beer like all over the back of his car, and he was obviously frustrated. And he reported me to Uber and put me on like a block ban list or something, no drive list, right? So I just never reached out to like fight it because I was in the wrong, and I'm so embarrassed now to call. Like every year goes by, I'm like, I should call Uber.
Why don't you just set up a new email address?
Because they go by your phone number, not your email.
Oh, you're just gonna have to get a new phone.
I'm gonna have to get a new phone number.
Probably not gonna get a new.
No, so I'm gonna use Lyft because now I'm an adult. I'm responsible.
Yeah.
Now you're an adult.
You know what the funny thing is?
I have to take Lyft.
Okay.
Now.
When
Fair
Uber
enough.
came out, everybody wanted to maintain like a 5-star rating.
I remember when they're the rating system.
Oh,
yeah.
my rider rating or whatever passenger rating.
I track
was
mine. I care about mine. It's a 4.92, and I'm upset. I'm upset it's so low.
But Bryan just skips everything else and goes to the ban list.
Go to the black.
You might have one of the low. I mean, I've never met anyone banned from Uber.
Yeah, same here. Like
I've never met anyone.
Yeah. They literally said, "We don't want your money."
Which is crazy because like they have that $250 like if you throw up or pee or.
It must be something new because that probably didn't exist 6-7 years ago.
No, I think it did.
They probably made a rule because of you.
Yeah, they might have like.
They're like, hey,
they call this the Bryan rule internally.
Yeah.
So thank God Lyft started to blow up a little bit because that was the only
Hey,
ride
look,
service.
Remember when they had those little mustaches? They made people have the mustache on the front of the car.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
say
not-
though, so far the cost is significantly lower on Lyft.
Is
Now,
it?
the drivers told me they like Lyft.
I like the
better.
UI better too.
Yeah.
So I've never used it.
Yeah, it's pretty good and it's cheap. What's that called again? As you said, like it's cheaper and it seems better.
Yeah.
And they don't have standards because they allow you to.
No, I've been good on Lyft.
Yeah.
I've been good on that. If you get banned from there, you're done, dude.
I'm done.
Back to taxis for you.
Taxis.
Or I'm just gonna have to pay a private driver.
Oh, jeez. All right, let's shoot this in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ASOM Pod, where we talk a lot. Ecom is the path that we walk a lot. From 4 point of views when we're talking shop. Amir from the agency and Jimmy from SAS. John has an Android, but give him a pass. Cause he's an operator building brands like a carpenter. And that's Bryan, he is the marketer. Like I said, this the ASOM Pod, where we talk a lot. Ecom is the path that we walk a lot. From 4 point of views when we're talking shop.
All right, guys. So for this next episode, John and I bet each other $1,000 that we have to give each other a funky phrase to say during this episode, and they have to weave it into the podcast. So for me, John has to say, "Not my circus, not my monkey,"
And then Bryan has to say, like a cat on a hot tin roof.
like a cat on a hot tin roof. So we have to weave that in.
Yeah, you have to say it naturally. And
All right,
no one knows.
$1,000.
$1,000.
$1,000 done.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the ASOM Pod, a show about perspective from the eyes of an agency, SaaS, operator, marketer focused on the D2C, e-commerce, and retail space. All right, let's go around the room. John Roman, Android Love and Survival King. What's up, dude? How are you?
Dude, I'm good, man. It's just tough to be bad in Miami. This is fun.
Yeah, this is good. Amer Grasnic, Prince of Bosnia, Mayor of Chicago. What's good, dude? How you doing? You feeling good?
I'm feeling really good.
We got a really spicy one because it's about agencies this time.
I know. Got my gloves on.
I know. We've got some hot takes, I'm sure. And Bryan McDonald, the funniest dude on LinkedIn, or the self-proclaimed one, at least. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. After this episode, I'm gonna get a Corona.
Hey, there was a post that you made.
Just announce it.
There was a post you made recently that I was laughing that your comment got almost as much likes as the post because it was really funny.
Yeah.
So he's living up to the name, and people are like, "All right, this guy's not just full of it."
Yeah, no, I'm
And we were tracking. We were looking at analytics last night, and like you had a spike on the day you put that comment.
Yes, huge spike.
It's funny because I ran across the post and I dropped it in our Slack, and I was like, Bryan. It was teed up for you to just be you.
And my name is Jimmy Kim. I'm the moderator, the brain, the man of the people, the email dude here. And first of all, if you enjoy our podcast and you want to get more unfiltered hot takes, way more unfiltered than we do here, because the technology censor us sometimes from saying things we want to say, jump into our podcast newsletter. It's found at awesompod.com. We've got a nice newsletter. You can see other things. Amer's working on trying to make it even cooler, apparently. So we're going to let him hopefully evolutionize this.
You're going to make it better?
What did I miss?
The man of the people.
I did say that.
Did you?
Yeah.
My hearing.
Yeah. You don't have your hearing aids in, buddy.
That's what you get for buying the Costco brand.
That's what you get for having Costco brand, he says. By the way, if you want to hang out with us in real life, we do this. We're going to be on stage in real life at an event called Commerce Roundtable. Wholeheartedly, we own the thing, so that's probably why we're putting ourselves on stage. But you should come join us. It'd be about 240 excellent brands, sponsors, agencies, technology companies. It's happening here in Miami on April 25th. CommerceRoundtable.com. You can get your tickets right now. All right, guys. This is going to be a spicy pot, I think, because we've got a lot of things. Love them or hate them, they're often seen as either a savior or the scapegoats for brands and companies often, right? So today, we're going to unpack the good, the bad, and the ugly about agencies. And now, this is what's interesting about this room today is two of us are technically kind of agencies right now. Like I'm kind of joined in that little rank right now with some of the things, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then two of us here hire agencies for their businesses. So we're going to go around the room first and just talk about agency experience. So, Amer, we're going to start with you.
As the agency.
As the agency, tell us about your details. Tell us what you are, what kind of agency you are. I know last time we'll call you a dev agency, but you're not. We're going to talk about that.
Position us more as like a specialty shop. And the reason I say specialty shop, even though we do a lot, we are exclusively do work on Shopify. And that's a kind of a lucky decision we made a few years ago, and it paid out. But we do everything platform migrations to system integrations, UI, UX.
CRO.
A CRO. We don't do anything that I would consider like off-site, meaning we don't do email marketing. We don't do anything with paid media. So anything that involves your system stocking, your website's functioning, converting, we take ownership of, and we do project or retainer-based work, or as we started to call it this year, managed services. And based on needs, we do that. The cool part about us too, I had co-founded Hulk Apps, which was 18 apps in the Shopify ecosystem. At the time we sold it, we had about 120,000 installs across the ecosystem. So we also have this great experience with building third-party apps or custom apps if needed for our clientele.
We have a couple custom apps for you guys.
Yeah.
John, tell us about your experience. Okay, how about this? Tell us who you use in agencies in your stack today in your business.
Sure. So right now we have 3 agencies we rely on. We have Prella, which is our development special projects agency. We have Sweatpants, which manage the majority, not all, but the majority of our digital ad spend. And then we have Tactical Marketing. So they do our affiliate.
Okay.
Which, yeah. Agencies, it's funny. There's a lot of, I read something last week where they were saying, you need to switch up all your agencies every 2 years to get fresh new eyes and stuff like that. Our first several years, we had that mentality, not necessarily with that same lens of we got to switch it up, but like, after 2 years, the relationship soured and we needed a new one. We weren't seeing the numbers we need. I think that's symptoms of bad agencies. And I think it's symptoms of the fact that agencies are such a low barrier to entry. Like, we literally could leave this pod, and within the end of the day, if we weren't shooting other pods, we could stand up our new agency, and it's the Jimmy, Bryan, John, Amir agency. And like, we could start signing customers, right? So very low barrier to entry, get a bunch of clowns in the space. And when you find the agencies that actually act like partners, it's really important. So we've had you guys, we've had the 3 that we have now. We've had you guys for 6 years now?
Yeah.
6 years. We had tactical marketing for 6 years. Sweatpants, I think we've had for 4 years. So, the previous ones, we have a problem. We don't know what the problem is, right? And, you go to the agency because you think it's an ad spend problem, and they're like, not my circus, not my monkey. And that's not acceptable, right? Like, help us figure it out. And
Right, why are you laughing?
That was fantastic.
What
a weave-in.
the reality is, the reality is, with the 3 agencies we have now, the partnership, they're partners, right? They're helping us on not the very, very narrow scope of only development, right? Because not everything's just black and white and siloed. And I think that's the importance, and why agencies get a bad rap is because 95% of them suck.
Interesting.
Can I just add something that I think we get lucky? Actually, we have amazing merchants, but you and many others, when something is not trending the way it should be, it's communication. Hey, how do we fix this? It's not like pointing fingers. It's not nothing. Hey, not happy with this. What can you do about it? And I think that is a testament also to the way you see potentially us, Sweatpants.
Well, we have very real conversations.
Yeah.
We had one there where there was some finger pointing this week.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, let's just get all in a Slack and pick a time to all jump on. And you don't even need to be there if you don't want to. We'll figure it out. We're going to own this. We wanted to be there so we could understand. But like, that's what partners do, right? That's a typical agency is not going to do that.
And Bryan, let's move to you. What about agencies for you? What are you guys using across your stack?
Yeah, so right now, we had a local agency handle our website and then paid ad spend. Before I got there, obviously, Bryan told them to politely go chew screw. And the current agencies that we just hired, Amir and Prella, are building our new website, migrating us over to Shopify. And then we're going through the interview process with different paid agencies right now. So those will be the first 2 that we take on. And then eventually, my goal is by mid-year, once website's developed and paid ads we have that sort of leveled in the sense of testing's done. We have, the offer that stands, that's been tested. After that, I'm going to take all of email and SMS out of house. And I'm going to bring that over to the same folks that handle whoever we go with, which we'll want to align with someone that has the ability to forecast inventory and revenue from a production manufacturing standpoint, because that also dictates how much operating cash flow we have to place towards ads, right? So we're not a brand that can just 2 or 3x overnight because the whole system would fail, right? So inventory forecasting is important, and finding the agency that can be an extension of our team with that on the paid ad side of it, but then also align email and SMS with that. I think like the more people I talk to, the more important that is to have all within the same agency instead of 2 or 3 different ones.
So you haven't named the agency, but I feel like you've already decided on the agency, no?
Yes, sort of. Yeah, I can't say it yet.
This is coming out in like the 5th of January.
Yeah. Where Adam is speaking with one person today, actually.
Okay.
And then one person next week that's worked with them in the past.
Okay, got it. Reference check.
Reference checks. And then hopefully next week at some point, it's pen to paper.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I like his resistance. I feel like you would have named it by now.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's my experience currently with OMAs. And then the more I get onto the D2C social game, like John was saying, the more the more clowns you see in the agency space, just because it's a $0 startup.
We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But I mentioned in the beginning of the show, like I also, one arm of my business is kind of like an agency a little bit. So I would say I'm a B2B SaaS growth agency. That's kind of what one arm of my business. We help B2B businesses in e-commerce grow through what we call the community playbook. We consult them and provide inventory through things like podcasts, newsletters, and things like that. If you want to sponsor the ASOM Pod, you should hit me up. That's me. So a little shameless plug there. But let's go ahead and kick this thing off, guys. I wanna think about this, right? Not everybody who's listening to this right now knows all about agencies. So before we dive into the depthness of agencies, I want to start off by talking about the types of agencies there are, because I think this will be really educational for people as they're making a decision around the agency. And we're going to go into things like what we should ask him, what we should talk to him about, how you should go through a process. And someone who's been going through multiple processes, we'd love to hear your angle of all the things that you guys talk about internally, so that people who are listening to this pod could go, oh, this is what I should be asking. This is the things I should check out. And Amer and I and John, we all have our own perspectives around that, and I think that'll be fun. But let's start it off. The first agencies that I see pretty common in this space are the full service agencies. These are the do-it-all giants. They handle everything from strategy to action. Have any of you guys worked with a full service agency?
We did initially.
All right, tell us about that, man.
We left on good terms. Still talk to them, so I don't want to badmouth them.
You don't have to name him, no.
I'm not a fan of the full service, right?
Okay. Well, tell us about that. Tell us what the advantages and the headaches.
So, I mean, the advantage is that it's one neck to choke, right? It's one point of contact. You typically have an account manager that's project managing all the different buckets of that agency's responsibilities. But the reality is, these agencies obviously have multiple teams, but it's when you get big enough where that's your model and you have those teams. I think the natural progression, we talk about natural progression of SaaS all the time. I think there's a natural progression of agencies that when they try to scale, when they try to get to that point, they're putting extremely junior level people in for cost reasons. And they're doing a lot of this, the heavy lifting, and it's problematic, right? Like, nothing's wrong with a 22-year-old working, like that's great. But when they're managing a core vital part of of our business, it's problematic. And then there's, not great checks and balances. So it's just difficult, right? Yep. I don't think your expectations can be very, very, very high.
Did you do it for the cost savings? Is that initially the attraction, or was it a lack of understanding and awareness of what was out there?
The latter. So,
okay.
And it was the start. We were about 25, 26 months in. We had been doing everything ourselves at this point. We were trying to scale. How do we get to the next level? And multiple referrals from this people. It was a local company. And, a lot of people said, hey, these guys are great. And they were great, but our expectations are just higher. They're great for probably most people, but not all founders, not all companies operate the same way.
Bryan, you had a full service agency before?
Yeah, the company that used to handle OMAs, who I had to deal with the first few months, and agencies have the ability to take advantage of businesses more than any other business has. And what I mean by that is the company that we worked with was making over $5 million a year. So we knew Adam's mother knew like the owner of it. So local business. The thing with agencies is, for them specifically, they only worked for small businesses in Connecticut, right? Most brands, most retail stores or ecom stores, right, are, I would say, less than 1% are actually operated by smart human beings with like an operational finance background. Sure. So now agencies have a pool of 99% of all businesses in the United States that don't truly know how to operate their business from the growth and finance side of it. So they have this huge ocean of people to take advantage of. And that's what a lot of these agencies do. Like the local company is, hey, like this mom and pop shop, they'll have no idea if we're doing a good job. They'll have no clue. So if they don't have a clue, we'll charge them $6, $7, $8 grand a month. They'll have no idea. We'll tell them we're doing a good job. And that's how I feel after I got rubbed the wrong way with them. I feel like there's so many of those agencies out there, especially the ones that attack the local communities and the local businesses in their states, because no one knows if they're doing a good job.
But do you think they're not doing it maliciously? I mean, I don't think this is a malicious action.
No, I think it is in a way in which where there's a reason he picked his model, right? If
he felt this less sophisticated business owner would be easier to manage as a client.
100%.
Okay.
And to me, that's manipulating and taking advantage of someone.
Okay. But then going to Amer here, You think full service agencies, mentioning smaller ones. Let's talk about the big ones, because I know that you probably deal with this because your clients probably end up coming from those agencies, the all-in-one agencies, the large ones. I'm talking about the ones with 500,000 people. I bet you is a typical client that has gone from there to say, hey, I want to come to your specialized agency, what you are. But let's talk about it. Like, what do you think about full service agencies? Why haven't you become a full service agency?
So I used to be one.
Okay, so you used to be one.
Yeah, so I used to be one, and we sold that agency. We used to work with brands like AB InBev, Movement Watches, and all that.
I didn't know it was full service.
Oh, yeah, it was full service. We did everything. We were good. I don't think we were great, because I think when you invest, like for example, as a full service agency, you invest into paid media, something else suffers. You invest into development, something else suffers. And at least we couldn't, and I'm not saying there's no agency that couldn't. I couldn't figure out how to be great at every single level. So I told myself when we started Prella, I want to be the best Shopify implementer there is. And I think we're getting there. I think we can compete with anybody. Now, as John pointed out earlier, I starting out to develop a CRO, conversion rate optimization team. I'll probably focus on that for the next 2 years, make sure it's great, and I have the right people in the right seats in the right place that can scale it. It's not dependent on me. And to get to your question, we work, for example, like Sweatpants with Eric and everyone else. The difference between a specialized or a boutique agency, however you want to do it, is one, the founders are always involved to a degree. They may not be every meeting, but they know what's going on. They know the pulse of everything.
They have a pulse at all times.
The other part too, the people that they hire because it's smaller, to what John said earlier, like the big agent has a 22, 23, 24-year-old, or even if they're older, the bigger agencies are about process. What is the foundational minimums that we need to deliver to keep this account or this website stable? And there's no outside thinking. Like, for example, I partner with Eric on actually a few different accounts. When there is a problem, Eric doesn't sit back and wait for somebody to respond.
No, I'm getting a Loom video of him.
Yeah.
Showing his screen. Like, it's him.
Let's hop on a call.
And he has a team.
Yeah. I'll ping Eric at 6 p.m. and he'll hop on a call with me. There's a huge agency one of our clients uses, and he was on a call. I'm not going to name them.
Just name them.
Huh?
Just name them.
No, I'm not going to do it because I don't know. I don't know the full story. And their employee was working with his founder at 11 p.m. pre-Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And the employee called the agency owner to say, hey, I need help. Here's the problems. Can you help us here? And he's like, why are you wasting my time?
Wait,
Wow.
what?
Yeah,
Name
literally.
Name them.
I'm not
You've
going to.
whistleblown so many people.
God, you're a whistleblower. Just blowing other whistles.
All you do is whistleblow.
The reason I'm not going to, because I don't know what the relationship is going to end up being there.
Yeah, it just sounds like a bad human being, though.
Yeah, it's a shitty person.
Right.
Okay.
Write them name down. I'll say it.
No.
Going backwards for a second here. Why do you think full agencies exist? I mean, like, okay, something that I've noticed, right? And I'll kind of give you my perspective of what I've noticed with full service agencies. You're 100% right. They're so process driven. There's no innovation or strategic explanation. However, I know that if you're a fast growing brand, you're looking for that, but let's pull that away from it and say, hey, I'm a company that's doing, $10 million and I'm growing 10 to 20% a year, very stable business that's growing. Could a full service agency or a full service agency do the job?
I think they can, but is it as good of a job as a specialized agency could do?
Yeah.
The answer is no. I think full service agencies exist is for operators or employees, departments, however you want to put it, that have so much on their plate, they can't have three separate.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
To me, I see to play the devil's advocate, like, hey, I'm going to go hire a full service agency that's going to do all my stuff for me, so I don't have 17 points of contact or 7 different agencies to work.
Yeah, we signed a pretty big deal. I talked about it on the last podcast, and they give us 2 websites to work at once, and big organization, and we started working on it, and we just knocked it out. And the guy's like, oh my God, you guys move so fast. Can you guys take 3 more? Can you guys take 3 more? Can you guys take more? Right now, we're managing 14 properties in 3 months, and they've never moved that fast because they work with these large agencies that do so much, overcomplicate. The other thing is like bigger agencies and these full service agencies specifically, they'll throw 10 people on the call and bill you an hour for every single person. Everything is strategy, everything is drawn out. We worked on a website where they had an SEO agency. We literally finished the design and half of the development before they came back with a navigational structure.
Wow. And that's also, it sounds like the business on the other side moves slow just as much, right? So is there
yeah,
match
they were
speed
used
almost?
to that. Yeah,
Okay.
they're used to that. And I'm like, this is a, maybe a week turnaround. The restrictions, SEO keywords. What are your top categories? What you want to upsell? What you want to cross sell? What you want to remove that's no longer selling? 20-80% rule. And we do it. And then you iterate depending on the engagement. And literally, a few months went by and we still don't have a navigational structure.
So not to veer away from this, but what you're saying, it reminds me of to bring SaaS into the mix again, when part of that SaaS model where you start adding more features, more functions, you get the end user sticky, right? These full service agencies, that's kind of the model, right? The stickiness, the dependency you have on that agency or that software. And unfortunately, when you have that stickiness, bad behavior occurs. Not always, but it's more the rule than the exception.
You think it's because they don't have specialization within the Okay, I'm going to give you an idea. I know about an agency that was a SEO agency, right? And they were this little SEO agency. They were actually great at SEO. And anytime someone said to me, hey, who should we use for SEO? I promoted to them. Well, over the years, they have now taken on web development, email, SMS, paid media. We do a little bit of everything, but SEO is still our core competency. I was like, well, that doesn't really drive a lot of excitement towards me to say like, these are just going to be auxiliary things. But to your point, a lot of these guys think about it as a retention mechanism, but they also think about it as like, if I can engulf the entire business, then I can do a better job. And I think that's the theory behind it, right?
I don't think it's completely out of line if you do understand the other parts of the business, because they all interact. I think that's maybe a naive view.
Yeah, but there's the devil advocate here, right?
Yeah.
Like the devil's advocate play, like the other side of this perspective is, and I'm just kind of using it because I don't know, but if I'm thinking about it as a person, as a human, let's just pretend as a CMO, right? I'm going to use my strategic lens. To me, if I can have a group of people working together to handle each part of my business, wouldn't that potentially be more effective than having siloed departments where, I've got my paid media guy and my email guys working separately and then my website people, and they're not working together, right? Like, I don't feel like when you hire multiple agencies, they often work together. They often work separately in their own silos. So how does that work? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair call out. I think you learn how to work, you learn how to break down the silos at times, right? Like the reality is, Eric from Sweatpants, his team is in the Prella BattleBox channel and vice versa.
But I think that comes from being the boutique side of you guys. Like I look at, Perella or Sweatpants as like boutique, and that you guys are more in touch with your businesses. You guys are specialized as well, but it's like the boutique element really adds to that feeling because you guys care about your customers in a different way. That's not typical in most places.
It's not. The other problem is too, I'll use Eric as an example. When Eric is struggling with cost acquisition, the first thing I say, where did we screw up? Where are we making it harder?
You're talking about for him or for his clients?
For his clients.
Okay.
Like, for example, like when ROAS drops, acquisition goes through the roof. My question is always, and the thought is, where are we holding that agency back? And a lot of times I'll go to Eric, and we've had these conversations with, especially this last year, what can I do better? And Eric doesn't point fingers back either. It's like, hey, I'll try this. Can you try this? And we collaborate. And it's actually pretty healthy. The problem is, I think the relationship for me and Eric and a couple of agencies that I work with is they don't have that approach. It's always finger pointing. Funny actually, because what John said the other earlier, Walter sent a meme of Spider-Man pointing finger.
We're gonna set up a call and drop the Spider-Man meme.
But that's how it always is though. But the brand started off, or the business on the end that's getting the service, they start off by doing this too, right? They start pointing.
But the thing is, like, we have to be fair, because all a business owner wants is a plan and a solution. Yep. Most businesses that we work with, they don't care who was at fault, just fix it because it is a pain point for my business right now. That's all it is. I was just saying it's not the problem, it's the reaction or the solution to it. And that's all it has to be. And I sometimes get mad at myself and my team and because we mishandled this, but it's like, you have to be empathetic to the position that the brand is in.
Got it. Well, Bryan, as you thought about you're letting go of this agency, did you explore full service agencies before you even explored going boutique or specialized?
No, and the only reason being is because the two biggest points that I wanted to focus on was the website side of it and the paid ad side of it. Everything else to me was irrelevant. So I'm like, okay, if these are the two things that are really holding the company back to growing, I want to find one of the best people in the website space, and I want to find one of the best people in the paid ad space and attack those two key lever points. Because when you're at a business like our size, which is, most folks out there, once they get to a certain point, they're at a $5 to $10 million business. Your two biggest levers are website and paid ad, right? Everything else is almost irrelevant to a degree, right? Once you have your product base set, once you have a sticky product or your business model is in place, the only two things that are really true levers are the way in which your website is built and constructed and the way in which your paid ads are run and your offers are set up. Everything else is almost irrelevant. So I was like, okay, well, let's find the two best people at those. And that's where my head went in the original direction of it.
1, 2, 3 into the phone. Guess who it is? Omnisenders at the door. Tools that'll make your brand break through. Pretty damn awesome, just ask the crew. Trusted by over 125,000, 5,800 reviews, you can count it. Go ahead and try it like Elf on the Shelf. The results you'll get will speak for themselves. Do their best to impress with their SMS. Do their best to address an email address. So forget juggling apps, this ain't a circus. Omnisend was built just for you with a purpose. So what are we doing? Why the delay? Head to omnisend.com today. Hey. Yeah.
I mean, that made me think about something. On the last pod, we were talking about hiring people and how you went and focused people. Do you think this is a symptom of the business owners or the managers of the business that think like this? You said last episode that, they had people running around doing a ton of stuff that was not specialized to their business, hence maybe why they hired a full service agency. So is it potentially that these full service agencies exist because they want all the odds and ends done by one person or one group of people?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think just like I said, 95% of agencies are clowns. 95% of business owners are clowns.
Just calling everyone clowns today. You've just now alienated 95% of everybody.
If you're painting your face and you got the little bouncy nose, might be clowns.
Your takes today are hotter than a cat on a tin roof.
Okay, so when we go specialized and boutique, right? And I think we already started tapping into those. Those are the next two that I had. So I said full service agencies, specialized agencies, and boutique agencies. Those were good, and I think that we've already tapped into enough to talk about there. But the last one I want to put on there is, what about a contractor freelancer? What are your thoughts here? And I think we've had a lot of experience. I've had experience definitely, and you guys have had. Amer, I want to start with you because I said something in our chat the other day about it, and you said, exactly, Jimmy, this is exactly why I tell people you should get an agency and not a freelancer. Give us the take.
So before I get into criticism,
criticism, just
it's going to be criticism a little bit, but
call him out.
What's the company? No, there's no company. There's no company.
What's LinkedIn?
Name them.
Social.
There's plenty of times when we get leads, and my recommendation, you shouldn't be talking to an agency with this type of time frame, this type of expectations, or this type of a budget. You need to go work with a freelancer. For certain businesses, freelancers are absolutely the answer, and it's a fraction of the businesses. Now, when we start talking to companies and they start comparing us to a freelancer, and I've gone through this, and a bunch of brands that we work with have gone through this, the problem is you have one point of failure. And to a degree, I also say this, especially in our space, when somebody has one web developer on staff, they're like, oh, we have an internal resource. And we'll build a website for them, and they want that one internal resource to, whether it's a freelancer or whether it's a payroll employee, they get sick, they go on vacation, they suddenly quit. And then people start to run back to us.
Yeah, there's no disaster recovery.
The difference is I have 80 developers, and God forbid if one of them gets sick, guess what? I got a bench,
you got
bench.
79 more.
Yeah, nothing changes for the business. The business doesn't feel it. And the best part is the cost stays the same. And the other part too, compared to a freelancer or even sometimes to a solo employee, I may not have the answer, but I have a team of 125. I go to Slack, hey guys, I'm struggling with this. Who's dealt with this? Answer right away.
Like Antonio Cromartie's family. He's got a lot of kids, right?
So what? I just, that was so random.
No, doesn't Antonio Cromartie have like 13 kids?
I have no idea who.
What does that have to do with freelancers?
Look it up.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to you guys. Let's talk about freelancers a bit. Like, how do you feel about them? You guys have some, right?
Yeah.
Contractors?
Yeah.
Why did decision contractors instead of going an agency?
So I think it's on for a majority of our like offshore freelancers, we'll call them.
Really quick. So Antonio Jr., Alonzo, Karis, Julian, Leilani, Deja, London, Tyler.
See?
Those are Antonio's children. So 3, 8.
Okay.
He's got 8. A little off there, but anyways, sort of relevant. I don't know, sort of relevant. Yeah.
Were they all freelancers? I don't understand.
They could be an agency.
Yeah, they could.
Got 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
What service do they provide?
They're off on their
All right,
tangent.
moving
All right,
on.
go,
There we
keep
go.
going.
Yeah, let's get back on track, John, please.
So, okay, how about this, Bryan? Let me reset it. Who do you have in Contractors freelance? You don't need to name him because John likes to name people. We don't need to name anybody, but like, what do they do, and why didn't you go to an agency to do that instead?
Yeah, so Sophia does our. I'm kidding. No, but so we have data analysts are a big point in taking time away from Adam's schedule.
Okay.
So Adam has a finance background, and when he took over the operational side of Oma's Pride, that was what he noticed he was spending a ton of his time doing. Right. So a lot of decision making that we have to make as a business comes from upgrading equipment in our manufacturing facility. It comes from inventory forecasting and procuring raw material. How much cash do we have sitting on hand? How much cash can we afford to procure an extra trailer to save 18 cents a pound? What does that look like over the course of the next 2 quarters? Right. All of this stuff is so important in the business that the data analysts were the first big freelance hires for Adam, and he didn't want, as we're having this conversation as well, he wanted to hire 3 right off the rip, essentially because he didn't want to put all of this on one person, but he also wanted the ability for all of them to have their own targeted segment of reports that they give, but they can all give the same reports, right? So one of them actually is on like a 2-week vacation right now, holiday, as they call it over the big ocean.
Across the pond.
Yeah, they call it a holiday. So the good part is now that we have a data analyst team, even though they're all freelancers, they still work together and they can take over each other's reporting.
So it's not really that you have freelancers; they're really just overseas employees in a way.
In a way, yeah.
And they work and they're managed by Adam. It sounds like.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
they're managed and so forth, as opposed to, again, to cover the perspective, as opposed to going to an agency and getting one point of contact and still getting your 3 people there.
Yeah.
So why the difference? And that's kind of where I'm curiously asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because he wanted them to feel like they're a part of the company.
Okay.
And I
There you
feel
go.
like as an agency, like Prella and Eric, the guys that we know that do a great job in the space, they're part of the 0.1%, right? So when you have someone that is an extension of your team or a part of your team, you don't get that in majority of agencies.
What about you, man? You've got people overseas and different people, but they're
they're
team
full-time
members.
employees.
Yeah. Okay.
So we only have one freelancer, a writer.
Okay. A writer.
And they'll, on average, I'd say they'll write 5 article blogs for us a month. At this point, we're
Very specialized freelancer ultimately.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question for everyone. You guys see contractors differently than freelancers?
I do.
Okay.
So, contractor. So we have, in my eyes, they're treated and behave the same way as a full-time employee, that for maybe tax purposes or country purposes, they're treated legally as a contractor, but they are 100% of their time working is with BattleBox.
I think when we think freelancer, at least in my opinion, Amer, is people who are coming in to do something for you, but not working.
They're not putting in 40 hours.
Lots of things, and they're working like 5 different jobs, and they're just here to do one thing in your job that you've asked
Partially,
them to do.
not full.
That's how I look at it.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, that makes more sense
deal.
now. Makes more
Yeah,
sense.
a contractor is a full-time person that could work for you because you contract them for 40 hours a week. They are basically working for you full-time. But a freelancer to me is someone who's floating around and they help you for an hour or 2 and they go off, right?
You can have a contractor, you're doing 5 hours a week, and that is a freelance.
Yeah, that's a freelancer, correct.
Yeah.
So,
No, makes sense.
okay. All right. Well, that's good. I mean, I wanted to cover those because I thought talking about the different types of agencies or freelancers would be really helpful for the audience to just be able to understand, like, there are choices in the way that you have to think it. You don't have to go to one to take care of all of things. You could go to boutiques, you could go to specialized, and that's different too, in my opinion. Like, a boutique and specialized are different. Just because you're specialized doesn't mean you have to be a small boutique agency. And I don't mean small in like size, but I mean small in like the way that you're handling and treating, and the way that you're covering and giving more of a hands-on approach, as opposed to one that you're kind of falling into a system, right? You can go into a specialized, perfect example. I get reached out all the time by people who are running companies, brands, and they're like, hey, I don't like my email and SMS not provider, but my service agency. You know, who can we do it? And I always ask, who is it, right? And oftentimes the people who are upset about him are large, specialized agencies, but they're not boutique in that they're not giving them any specialized experiences. They have a playbook. It's kind of like the full service thing we talked about. They have the playbook. They follow the playbook. There's no strategization. There's no expansion in the way that they do. They just do the job and deliver the job that they're expected to do, right? And that's, to me, what a specialized agency does. You layer on boutique and that next one, right? And I think if you're listening to this pod and you're thinking about like your agency choices, there is a difference, and you've got to understand what that difference is. And you also have to understand what you need, right? If you're, before Bryan joined Almost Pride, for example, that general agency was good enough for the team there because they did what they wanted. They didn't want to manage 16 people or 4 people or 5 people. They wanted to manage one person. They wanted to know that the job was getting done to what they thought it was good. And they probably thought they were doing a good job for them, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because they were satisfying the need of the client, which is all most people want at the end of the day. Right? People who are looking for that next level. Okay, so let's move to the next part of this thing, because let's talk about choosing that agency. I want to talk about navigating all the little landmines and minefield things that you might go through. Let's talk about how you start to identify an agency and the things that you should go through. I'm going to start with you, Bryan, because you've just gone through this. Yeah. As you've made decisions, or let's talk about the paid ad ones. Let's not talk about the one with Perella. I think that's already moved on. Boring, and we've talked about this enough. Let's talk about the relevance of the paid ad.
Yeah.
You decided that I want to get a paid ad agency to come take over my paid ads, right? Yep. What was the process like?
Yeah, so it was asking you guys. I asked all you guys for recommendations as well, right? My network, my community, folks that I've built relationships with, that I know, that I can trust as just friends, but also as business owners as well. So literally like casting that net. But, you know, most business owners don't have that, right? Okay. So what do they go to? They go to Google, right? Maybe they look online and come across someone and reach out to them.
Is there like an agency or ranking site or anything out there?
They're all BS.
Okay, they're all BS.
They're all pay to play and all that. Yeah.
So that's like, I think I was able to bypass the biggest hurdle that a majority of business owners have to go through when they're finding and choosing an agency to work with, because I know the ones that were sent to me were people that I would not lose sleep over, no matter who we went with, right? So I think that was crucial. But then looking at the specific needs of the business, right? So as Adam and I talk further, one key component that we wanted to go forward with was someone who dealt with weekly and monthly, which was very hard to find, financial and inventory forecasting reports based off of the manufacturing business. So folks that have worked with manufacturers in the past, they have a inventory forecasting modeling department and finance team that works with the paid ad team, because like I said, the money in and money out is a lot easier for most brands that we come across on the D2C side of it, because a lot of it is just, like I said, just ordered product.
If you're not looking at both, it's a recipe to go out of business.
Correct. So that was huge, right? So it's like, what are the needs of the business, and then making your decision pool smaller from there. So that was like an important step for us during this process, is here's what we need in order to make this work. Okay,
so you started off what I need, right? This is exactly what I need, and these are the non-negotiable things that we need to need. Okay?
Yes, correct. And then from there, then it was just finding folks that offered those services, and really now going through the checks and balances with other folks that they've worked with in the space.
So reference checks.
That was the key part of it. The money piece of it necessarily wasn't a big issue, because for the most part, everyone's within a 20% range, 30% range of each other in regards to the folks that we've talked with. You know, some of them operate on, here's your flat pay up until you reach a certain threshold, then it becomes like, let's just say 1% of spend or whatever the case may be. For the most part, I don't think that was a deterrent in regards to who we went with. It was more so of, can you grow with our business the way that it needs to grow in order for it to be successful? And that was really, it was as simple as that. Once like I said, I got over that biggest hurdle of getting qualified leads to begin with.
Got it. Okay, I'm gonna zap you back to when BattleBox was 26 months old, and you mentioned that you had a full service agency. How did you guys go and find your agency? What was the move?
So our process is obviously much different than it was, when we were 26 months old.
But I want to know about that before we jump into your current process.
Yeah. So, I mean, we didn't know what we didn't know. It was my local Atlanta network.
So you still
people.
tapped into network even back then. Okay.
It came. I asked the Atlanta network, hey, who's a good Atlanta agency, and two of them had worked with and recommended these guys. So it was network.
So it was word of mouth at a local, and your network was smaller, so you were only to work in a localized network.
Correct.
Interesting.
That was a recipe for disaster from the beginning, because Atlanta's where the players play.
Yeah. Jeez. All right, Amer, I have a question for you. As you talk to people, have you ever asked this question, like, how did you find your last agency? You talk to people like that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
How do people find that? I'm curious. Like, I'm trying to get a better answer between these guys. These guys talk about players playing and stuff. We're trying to find. I want to understand like how a typical brand goes and figures out the agency. I think the network is definitely one of them. What else do you hear?
Larger agencies, larger brands that we talk to, I would probably say 20 million plus, especially when we come to 9-figure brands. It's a lot of inheritance when they come to us. It's like, oh, I have this agency, I'm not happy with them, so on and so forth.
How'd they find you?
Our 90% of our business is referrals.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's referrals from brands, for technology partners. That's why, like, when we even talked last year, I don't do a lot of marketing, because I have a rule that I tell to my team. Shopify is our biggest part. I owe my life to Shopify to a degree, and love the culture and everything they do over there. Then we have Recharge, we have Yacht Post of the World, so on and so forth. I'm talking first about partners. We'll get to you. When we work, let's say I get 5 leads and 3 are from partners, 2 are organic. Regardless how big that organic opportunity is, we take care of our partners first. That's bar none. Sometimes, and we have passed up on a larger monetary opportunity in order to help a partner win a deal. And I'm okay with that. And I think that has established our...
Yeah, I get that. But hold on, trying to go back to the question here.
Yeah.
How do brands find other ones besides network? What other reasons have you seen how brands... Is it just simply Google searching? Like, there's a lot of agencies. How many agencies are in the world? Probably like thousands, 10,000?
38,240.
No, I think he just made that up. All right. Well, we'll fact check that. We'll put a fact checker under here. But
referrals are the biggest one.
It is referrals.
Yeah.
And then okay, so but not all brand agencies can live off referrals. So what are they doing? Is it just cold DMs? Is it just Google ads? I mean, like, how else are people making a discovery to agencies?
A lot of people do outreach, cold outreaches.
I get every day.
10 emails a day.
Okay, so you're getting cold outreaches.
Yeah.
That's how they're trying to find you.
I get a lot of like B2B agencies reaching out to us that do like marketing and things. A lot of them do a lot of ads. I mean, Instagram, AdWords, and it fluctuates. People go through these cycles just like brands do. And I'm part of like an agency mastermind group on Slack. And every, I would say, quarter, we discuss like, hey, who's doing what and what's working. But the thing is, I think that all of those, because there's so much noise and there's so many agencies going after the same pie, for most business operators, it's noise. And what I've also heard before is like, we sent emails before and ran ads and things like that. And people that reach out to me, it's like, hey, we've seen you guys and we heard about you guys. But then I spoke to somebody here and here and they mentioned you and then they reached out. So it's still a referral. But to your point where you were talking to me about last year, they've seen us elsewhere.
Got it.
And that kind of, the referral always solidifies or closes the deal for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. client studies, client references, reporting, obviously pricing, services that you have. What else am I missing on the checklist?
I'll go. So client references is an interesting one, right? Like I think we're programmed that we should ask for them. And I think you should to a certain degree. But the reality is like, you're going to have a happy client.
Of course. Who's going to give a client?
I'm not going to give you a client that's not happy, right?
Yeah.
I like to ask for a client reference that's no longer a client.
That's a good one.
And you're going to have one, right? Everybody has churned to a certain...
Except that one company.
Except that one company we talked about last night. So I think that's a big...
Okay. So you ask him for a client that's no longer a client that will be willing to talk to me.
Yeah. And then for me, at least, and I think this is important, is something you should set proper expectations and understand, is what the communication cadence looks like, right? Are you connecting via Slack? Are you having bi-weekly calls? What does that look like? I think you need to understand that, because if you don't, you might start the relationship off just not aligned.
Not aligned. Yep.
What about KPIs? Do you guys are clear upfront of what you guys expect? Like how specific are you getting? Is it data set down to the dollars, or is it generalized? Is it high level? Like when clients come to you, is it like, we need this done in X amount of months and this is the story, and then you are accepting it like that? Or are you using that as a barometer? Like, what do you think about that? Like, how important is that to you?
No, it's 100% important. The biggest, I think, fallacy in my business specifically is, and I talked to you about this last night, people think, oh, you're going to drag out my project.
Yep.
Well, I say, do I want to make $100,000 in 6 months or in 3 months? I want to make it in 3 months. So the longer the project takes, my resources are used up. I can predict when I can offboard them, all that fun stuff. Dates are very important. We are very, very realistic with our clients. If we cannot hit a date, we either say, hey, this is the reality when we can hit it, or do you want to take a phased approach and we can break the project up in order to hit that if they're happy with that. If they're not, it just becomes a headache for everyone. I think it's one of these things that, and the challenge is, I think, for brands, if they don't have people that have done these type of projects or engagements in the past, they don't know what to expect. So we have to also be sensitive to the brand to be able to educate them in what the participation time commitment is needed from them. Because a lot of people say, oh, yeah, we can do it. Most companies cannot keep up with us on how fast we go. And it becomes a problem. We'll forecast our project to be 3 months, and it turns out 6 months because they don't finish their photo shoot on time. We wait for design feedback instead of 2 days for 2 weeks, so on and so forth. So
your perspective on the agency side is, what I'm hearing is, sometimes it's not just the KPIs and the checklists and things, but it's also, as a brand, you should be asking to the agency, what is my participation? What am I responsible for in order to ensure that you get to your job point or to get to the job completed? Yeah, so this is the way I would, if I was a brand, if I started a brand tomorrow, this is kind of what I would do. And actually, you cover some of those points. My question, a lot of brands make a mistake going to an agency saying, these are our expectations. The question should be, share the expectations other brands you work with have of you. Because if they share a bunch of expectations and they're not aligned with your expectations, they probably are never going to be able to fulfill them. Got it. So listen to how they already function and work. The other one is, us included, every agency makes a mistake. Ask for the last 3, 4, 5 mistakes that the agency has made, and it's okay. But the most important answer is, tell me how you fixed them. How did you respond to them? The other one I would always recommend is, salespeople are salespeople. They're going to paint the most beautiful picture. And regardless, ask to speak to the extended leadership, either as a team or it may be segmented. Because if they don't tell you the same process or they don't paint the same expectations as everyone else, that team doesn't communicate internally, and it's a problem. And a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, no, you can't talk to my team because, you haven't paid me yet. That's a red flag to me. If somebody asks to talk to our team, we always do it. The other thing is, what are your expected outcomes? Like kind of KPIs, do that. And then once you share them, if the agency tells you, oh, we can do this way, I think it's a red flag. The agency should probably respond, well, let us look into it, talk as a team, and we'll come back to you and let you know if that's truly achievable. That's a big thing for me. And then the other one is what we kind of referred to already, is ask, what resources are you going to need from me? And what is going to be the time of those commitment of those resources? So then when the agency gives you a timeline or whatever the workflow is, that you can reflect that and say, hey,
I can commit this resource, or I need to maybe hire somebody else, or maybe say, you know what, I actually can work within this process.
And I actually, once in a while, I have to commend Amir. What he said is like actually true. Like for those of you that are listening to this, he's not just full of, that Bosnian powder, right?
What?
I don't know. Just made that up.
The Bosnian powder?
Yeah, just think about it.
Oh, I thought about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Amir called me this week or last week, right? So essentially like all the website design's done except for the meal plan selector, which I don't know if that's what you call it, quiz, I guess. Folks are driven through their own personalized meal plan that they spit out, add to cart, but I want options at the end of it where it breaks. Large dog subscription has chicken, turkey, beef, and lamb in it. And I want the consumer to be able to, if they want to decrease or increase their chicken and switch and swap proteins. So the plan was originally to go with an app and then just build what we need in the app, right? So that was the timeline, which was expected. And then Amir called, he's like, hey, we tried this, right? However, it doesn't work. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to custom build the app now, but that's going to push it out. I know we talked about end of February, but that's going to push it out most likely until this week in March, right? But that conversation happened as soon as they figured out that they had to go the custom route. It's happening literally right this second. So that's just goes to show that's like the type of relationship that brands and agencies want to have together. So that way it's not, if they're communicating that internally, but not with me. Now, when, February comes and I still don't have the meal plan selector, it's like, oh, well, we actually had to build it custom. So it's going to be, why didn't you freaking tell me that a couple weeks ago? Right. Well, he did right away. So now it's expected.
So, what I'm taking away from this, at least as I listen to it, is that if you're in a brand looking at an agency, right, and you're interviewing him, one of the ways, and Amir kind of said, like, tell me about an experience. What is going to happen in this situation and how do you handle it? It's not really asking him, how's your communication? Because everyone's going to say, oh, my communication is great. But hearing these stories are really important because you're hearing about good things. Is there a bad experience that you've had in an agency that you can share, that you can tell of, like, something that happened, or maybe a horror story you've heard occur in agencies? I think you just shared one yesterday about a horror story they were dealing with. Maybe it wasn't an agency, but they were dealing with a business challenge ultimately, and they ran to you and made demands, right? They wanted things
That's when we had to push dinner back?
Yeah. Right?
For a 10-minute phone call.
So, again, not naming anything, but just like what happened, right? Like, and then like, how did you handle it? And this, I think, is good for brands to hear because these are stories that you want to hear back from the agency that you may be hiring.
Yeah, so we work with a entrepreneur that has multiple businesses, and one business we built a website for and we didn't manage. It's actually like a low maintenance, and the money that they wanted to put into it doesn't make sense for our retainer. It just wouldn't work out. And the other one they wanted to do when we work with it. And there were some changes around Shopify checkout, how everything works. And they work with an agency and they had a third-party app provider. And both of them were telling them, you don't have to worry about these updates, whatever. I didn't know those conversations were happening at that time. And when we were handling the business that we owned, I had a separate conversation and I told her, hey, I know we don't touch that business, but have you solved this problem for them? Because I don't want you guys to suffer, basically. And she told me, like, you know what, we talked about this, and we have nothing to worry about, whatever. I was like, you know what? I have a few minutes, just send me the deets and I'll take a look at it. And I was like, no, this is not going to work. Then we all got on a call and everyone was saying, oh, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. And I was like, guys, like, I'm just going to tell you what my best suggestion is. You don't have to take my suggestion. So that was kind of me. And the other platform, and it was a subscription platform that we don't work with, and agency, it almost felt like I was trying to take their business away, where that sure. I didn't care. Yeah, I was just trying to help out. So they went to another third party, and the third party said, Amir is 100% right. Yep. And literally next week, they're like, we know we're not going to use up all these hours, but the fact that you looked out for us, we don't want to go with anybody else.
Makes sense. I think what you can learn here, and I think as I hear you guys kind of sharing a lot of these things, and it's been interesting because I sit here and I get to listen to your side and then these guys' side a little bit. It's a two-way street ultimately. And I think that's the clearest thing about agency and brand relationship is it doesn't work if Bryan just yells at your agency and tells you to do stuff, and he doesn't want to do anything or doesn't want to give you any feedback. It requires you guys to talk and become like partners ultimately at some level or another. You are an extension of their team, regardless if you like it or not. The bigger the agency, yeah, they might still all go off and do their thing, but if you want it to be fruitful, and I guarantee you, even if you're working with a large agency, if the brand side or the customer and the client side works really well with the agency side, I bet you get a better experience out of them, even just as humans, right? Because you're tying them in, you're keeping them informed, you're letting them know stuff.
Just to the yelling thing that I would tell everyone, just a piece of suggestion, this is in relationships too. When you're working closely with somebody and you have to yell for them to hear you or for you to think they'll hear you, you're actually really far apart.
Yeah,
it's probably not a relationship anymore.
Or
Personal
they forgot
life,
their hearing aids.
yeah. But my point is, and I'm very lucky in this, and when I talk to other agencies, I know this, John, a bunch of other people that we work with. When we screw up and we have screwed up, we talk human to human, person to person, and every single person, especially like you can yell at me. I have thick skin. I'm a business owner. I don't take anything personally, but it's not fair to my team.
Sure.
And I know they're doing their best. They may not be doing what's expected sometimes, but if you talk to them like they're humans, value them like they're humans, you're always going to get a better response, whether it's a friend, whether it's a partner, whether it's a business.
Okay. This is good. I really like hearing this because it's giving really unique perspectives. As if you're a brand listening to this or an agency listening to this, it kind of gives you what you should be thinking on both sides and how to, clear up your expectations or how your communication should work. Let's zap into the future. How do agencies evolve into the future with the use of AI and, the evolution that's occurring right now in the market? Like, I know we continue to see agencies. I don't think agencies will ever die. I don't believe that that's ever going to be. It's a human augmented like services or specializations, oftentimes and a need or necessity. But how have you guys thought about how they change into the future with AI and different things that are happening right now? Have you thought about that? Like, do you think you're going to continue? Like, okay, here's a perfect example. Your website. Yeah, I understand that like you guys work together, and I'm going to pick on you two because it's perfect. But there's tools now that you can build a landing page like this right now using AI to spit out actual working functional landing pages, and it gets you 80-90% of the way there now. Or if I'm looking at a mayor, again, the same thing. That tool could help speed yourself up internally, and you may not need as many people, or you could charge more or charge less, take more clients on. And there's a lot changing right now.
Yeah, and I think it's going to change it in that exact way, right? So it's a two-way street, right? We're going to be able with AI to do more ourselves than previously we could do. And the flip side, the Prellas of the world are going to be able to go faster and be stronger because of it. So I think what that does is it puts that monthly, in our case, monthly retainer, what's being charged, it starts putting eyes on that, right? Because we're like, well, we know that you're able to run faster because of AI, and we know we could jump in and get it from A to F. So I think a squeeze, like overall in the market, I think there'll be a squeeze on what agencies are charging.
That's a good
both sides will.
How do you feel about this, Amir? Like, as you look into the future of all the things that are coming out and how disruption's occurring, like, how are you shifting your mentality as an agency?
I mean, my big thing, actually, what I delegated, what we talked about in the previous pod is I wanted from different segments of the agency to bring me, how do we bring AI into efficiency of the agency so that we can do more quicker and maybe even bring on more merchants on with the capacity that we have.
So you want to increase capacity through using it. So
potentially, yeah.
So you as an agency might take in more clients because of it.
Yeah.
And be able to output still the same quality at the same time.
That's a challenge.
That's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And with us, with the clients pushing on price, that would offset it.
Yeah, you have to get more clients in order to achieve the same revenue. Essentially, it may drive prices down at some level for a brand.
But if you're able to get more clients, then
I don't think it will drive the price down. I think it will drive costs down. I think the hourly rates and everything like that will still stay the same, but we may go to John and say, hey, John, instead of paying X, we can now decrease it to this and do things a lot.
But that's the same end result.
Yeah. But I'm saying then I don't want agencies to think that we're saying like, hey, brands are going to expect for you to take your hourly rate from 200.
I'm telling all agencies, expect it. Drop the prices.
Yeah. The big part for me when it comes to AI and evolution of that, I think it just becomes another tool. My thing is with AI, and I know you've been playing around with it, and I've done the same thing. I think AI is going to be one of those things like Shopify is. I think a lot of Shopify for a lot of brands can get you there 80, 70, 60% out of the way out of the box. But then you still need somebody like us to go in and complete it. The other component is, yes, it's AI, but I think there's still going to have to be some type of management of the code, the AI, whatever the case is. So the shift is going to be, instead of you having software engineers and software developers, to AI engineer managers and developers.
Prompt engineers?
Prompt engineers, yeah. I actually read an article, the most demanded job in the next 20 years for college graduates and everyone else is going to be AI engineers.
Yeah, which could be anything. I mean, it still takes the same principle mindset, thinking of problem solving and challenges and architecture and everything. You just don't need to learn the coding side, which allows you to lower the barrier in a different way, but it increases a barrier in a different way, right?
Yeah.
So, Bryan, any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, Brian's got some thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I know. I actually have a pretty spicy take. I think agencies are going to lose share to brands becoming their own agencies. And I think what's going to happen, you start to see this more and more, where once brands start working with certain agencies, especially on like the social commerce and paid ad side of it, you start to realize how much of that side of the business is run by Meta and TikTok themselves. And it's a lot easier to learn as years go on with working with a top tier agency on what you can take in house and sort of start to build your own agency. And so like right now, a lot of brands that ship their own product are also offering 3PL services, for example, right? We do, John does, the guys in the call, because what you want to do is maximize your revenue output based on the structural and operational foundations that you have set up as a business. Well, I also think what's going to happen, especially on those sides of agencies, is brands are going to start to realize how easy it is to become proficient in paid ad, and how easy it is to become proficient in TikTok Shop, right? For example, there's not a overhead. It's very easy for someone like Almost Pride to save up $100,000 once we get big and have 2 specialists come in, work with us, grow our own, run our own ads for our own business, and start to offer the same thing that brands do in the 3PL and fulfillment capacity. Because the more, I would say like the past like 3 months, I've really dove into the paid ad stuff and like nerded out on it. It's not that hard. Yeah. It's really not.
I mean, it's an interesting perspective because I've seen it, right? What you're saying is definitely seen. You're basically saying this. You're saying that...
But it's flip side right now. Agencies become brands that use their own agency to run their paid. Yeah. Right? We see, but I think brands are going to start to realize...
You're saying basically brands will be so efficient that they'll have availability to bring on clients to do things.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head there. Before we jump to the last part, why are you shaking your head so aggressively?
Because in the last 20 years... And I was afraid of this when I was younger because I didn't have the experience. You know, you had WordPress and then you had all of these no-code platforms pop out of nowhere. Like talking about like Wix, Squarespace, all of these third-party tools. And everyone said, oh my God, what are developers?
Sure. Well, that's, I mean,
that happens. I'm not talking about developing.
Even paid media. I mean, paid media has involved, like I'll take any agency. You're going to have one person looking, or 2 or 10 in your brand on your paid media. You have Tyler from Common Collective, or what's it called?
Taylor.
Yeah.
CTC, yeah.
He has a bunch of brands. Eric has a bunch of brands. You will have no insight at what the landscape is and what's working, what's not, what triggers are happening based on that.
Yeah, neither did they when they started.
Yeah, but today what you said, like TikTok and Meta runs, but every agency and every brand says, oh, look at Zuck. He's changing things and keeping all the money in his pocket. And there's no intermediary saying, you know what, Bryan, you're right. Facebook is full of BS. They capped everything out. Or you know what, you're not. We have problems with the website. We have problems with your creative. We have problems with your messaging. You're not going to have any of that insight. Where Eric and all of these other people, you get on the call with them, you know what? John, I'm seeing every single subscription about killing it. We are suffering. Is it pricing? Is it inventory? Is it positioning?
Yeah, but Eric didn't know that 5 years ago either.
He did. He
What
hits
I mean is
20, 30, 40.
how did he start out? Did he know all that when he started out?
No, but he gained that experience.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
No, but you're not going to work with 20 brands.
Why not? I can work with one at a time. Now I can work with 4. Now I can work with 6.
So
10
what are you
years down the road?
So you're going to
just
become
like
an
a 3PL.
agency?
No, but I'm saying what's going to happen is you're going to start to realize that it's the quickest way to scale with a limited amount of people. Most of these agencies, Eric has 5 employees, it's 10 employees, but you can build up over time and acquire 2, 3 employees that can take on 10 to 20 brands. You take on 1 or 2 at a time. Next thing you know, your ROI is $50,000 a year based off brands.
On the brand
no,
side,
but that's not the point. It doesn't become a part of Almost Pride. It becomes. Let's just say it's.
So you're saying a spin-off.
Yes. So you have you're gonna have like a pet food agent or whatever the case may be. It's called Pet Food Agency that runs Almost Pride Agency. That's owned by Almost Pride because we learned based off of the years of experience bringing someone in from.
But that's already happens. That's already happening today.
Yeah, but it's going to happen more and more and more is what I'm saying.
Because it's getting
really
easier because you've got AI.
Do you know why?
so-
And I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you the exact reason, because this is the problem I have hiring. Most people can't handle agency life.
They can't handle it in what aspect?
They can't handle it.
3PL is 10 times harder. Not even close.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be a dick. 3PL is 10 times harder than running an agency.
I know. No. From perspective of scaling it and doing everything, I 100% agree with you. It is harder. That's the reason I don't do it, because I see it.
Yeah.
But the things that you don't see is when I get a 3 a.m. phone call, I pick it up at 3:30 and I jump on the computer and no excuses. What you don't see is I wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and I'll sometimes stay till 1 a.m. in the morning working on things. And this is not just like from yourself, because like when you work for yourself and you're growing your business, it's a different feeling. But when somebody calls me and saying, hey, California just passed this tax law, I'm not going to be able to operate my business.
Wait, a client's calling you at 3:30 in the morning?
I had clients.
But isn't that bad client expectation?
That's
though?
that's a
I
would
barrier
fire
thing.
that client.
I would fire that client too.
That's not a good
Don't call me
client.
at 3 a.m. Nothing's ever that urgent, at least in my opinion.
There's been things that have been that urgent.
No, there's nothing that
No.
urgent. Literally, there's nothing.
So you're telling me if a client gets hacked and their whole website is off, that's not an urgent issue?
Unless I cause that problem, we'll take care of it in the morning.
I don't believe in that.
Yeah, but that's a personal belief. Though,
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Remember, Amer, you may operate in a window this way. The majority of the world does not operate in this world.
I get it.
You're arguing in a way, in your perspective, that's through your lens, and we respect that. But I don't think that's a good client. Like,
yeah, I would fire that client.
why is the client up at 3 a.m.? That's the second part to
That's
it.
probably a red flag.
Yeah, that's
in
a red
and of
flag.
itself.
So
I don't
did
want
that-
clients that are up at 3 a.m.
So like you guys.
I'm
So
just
you're
being
telling me
honest.
if a client has a $50 million business, it's operating globally, they have a employee in Australia, and the employee says, holy crap, why is our website down? Or they're technical enough, they know that they actually got hacked.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that situation, let's say I'm the Aussie.
How do you from Australia?
What?
Aussie.
Yeah, the Aussie. Yeah, he's a U.S.
Oh,
brand. There's an Aussie,
yeah.
so the time zone. I'm dropping a Slack. If I think you guys can help resolve it, I'm dropping a Slack message. But because of the time,
Yeah.
because of
But
the time,
this could also be my agency has poor staffing or people who are responsible
I'm
at
not
the right
calling.
time zones.
I'm not calling.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I think that's
them
not a
calling
good
you,
client.
I think is a bad.
It's
client.
not your fault that they're in this problem. It's unless it directly is you
No,
caused it.
I get
if
it.
it's not your fault.
Yeah, if
and
you caused it,
if
I
you
know.
cause it's one thing. Like I changed
Look,
code and
we're
ruined
still
the
going to
website.
have to readdress why he was up at.
Yeah.
No.
Calling.
Okay, no, because they got woken up, and again, people panic.
Sure, I get it.
I will tell you this. I set the expectation. I tell everyone. I've told you this. I've told Bryan this. I told everyone. God forbid, if you're in a panic mode, and a lot of people don't know how to handle panic, anxiety, and all of that, I'm one of the calmest people in the world.
Oh, I understand that.
And I set the expectation. If you're panicking, whatever, I may not pick up because I'm sleeping, but the moment I see it, I will call you back. Didn't blow
That's
up my
fair.
phone.
There's nothing wrong with any of
Yeah.
that. You're doing good customer service, but I'm just saying, like, there's nothing in the world that a website and like a business like that is going to deteriorate from you waking up at 3 a.m. or staying up till 3 a.m.
No, I agree. I'm just saying I like to give my merchants and my clients, and we have a global team, by the way, too. So there's Slack channels that
There
people
should be
need
other
to.
people responsible
they
for
are.
this.
They are.
In proper time zone.
Yeah. So we have that, and it rarely happens. By the way, it rarely happens. But when it does, I'm saying I don't mind it. The reason I'm saying, and the reason I came into this, I'm just trying to set an example. When you are working on BattleBox, when you're working on something you own and you're putting those 18 hours in, it is a different feeling than when you're working on somebody else's business.
I get that. I get that. But in the defense and the perspective of the other side, I say maybe you just have the wrong clients. That's like not saying your clients. I'm saying maybe you have the wrong clients if that's what's occurring within. You know what I mean? Like maybe Bryan is getting his local pet food guys who don't know what's going on at 3 a.m. and they just work in a 9 to 5 and you set
I'm
those
just using it
boundaries
as an
and
example.
expectations.
I'm just using it as my point is like there's certain people, they're not wired to just work on one. I could not work just on one brand. I can't. I love working with different people. I love working in different industry. I love constantly learning. That's my personality.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the reason I'm saying that's not going to happen. Agencies are not for everyone. Brand is not for everyone. 9 to 5 is not for everyone. And we're already seeing that. That's not going to change. John, if he wanted to, he has the experience and expertise, and I've seen him get technical, scrappy. He can start an agency tomorrow.
We could all start agencies tomorrow. I think that's pretty clear.
John, didn't you guys take some paid in-house?
No, we switched. We gave Google to another.
But it's not in-house. I'm not arguing in-house. Would you start and take on clients tomorrow?
Well, that's not what the question was not asking that.
That's what he said.
Well, he's not saying that. He said that it could create an extension of his business.
Yeah.
And he can go train the people using his brand, and they could spin up a way to have a paid media arm that doesn't cost them anything because they're taking on other clients that could pay.
So to answer your question though, as of today, we have 3PL clients and we have Amazon clients.
Yeah. So they're taking on something that they haven't needed.
And we are actively looking for.
Yeah, no, we spoke about that with your warehouse and brought some opportunities.
Except for the warehouse, we're not because 3PL is way too hard.
And the point of conversation I had with Adam is the 3PL side of it goes against the same thing you're saying on the other side of it.
What do you mean?
You want his workers in the warehouse worrying about other people? No, he's trying to maximize the output and revenue based off of his ability to operate and the foundation he has set up with real estate. Yeah. People are the same thing. So the only reason I say this is going to happen is because it's not hard to become proficient in paid ad. It's not. It's really not. After 5-6 years of you really learning from one of the best people out there, you can bring in another best person out there in-house. Now you have them running it just like normal with the ability to bring on other clients.
Again, different perspective.
Same thing with 3PL.
Most people don't know better. We've already discussed the fact that most business owners, as John politely puts it, are clowns, and they. Yeah. And I'm not saying that. That's John's perspective, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I retract my statement. Maybe it's 70%.
Okay, 70% are clowns. Whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say to you is this. Okay, most people don't know better. And they don't know what good performance is, bad performance. Yeah. This is the performance that they know, and that's what they see. And if you're working with businesses that go, and this goes down to clients, it goes down to the right clients.
I'm not disagreeing with your premise.
Yeah, let's wrap this.
I don't think we're going down the wrong thing. The whole idea was very simple. Was how does the world of agency change over the next 5 years with the change of AI and different things that are coming into place? Yeah, it's not proficiency of Bryan spinning off new things. I think Bryan is saying that things have gotten easier, and I wholeheartedly agree. 100%. That's why e-commerce is where e-commerce is today. 10 years ago, e-commerce was harder to do, which is why there wasn't as much e-commerce happening. Today, I can go spin up a brand. Guys, tonight, I could have my first sale of a product tonight with an e-commerce store. Spin up a Shopify store, go pick up a cheap tchotchke, whatever, throw up an ad. Dude, and I don't, it's been years since I've done any of this stuff.
What is customer acquisition easier today than it was 10 years ago?
I didn't say that.
We just said it was easier to do e-commerce today.
It's easier to start an e-commerce business than ever today.
We're easy to
start it, but not scale it.
I never said customer acquisition.
No, he's saying he's getting.
Never said anything about dollars.
He's saying getting a customer.
I said I can get a customer tonight.
You
I
didn't
never
say
said how much I
profitable.
spent.
I know, but like,
It is
You're just
easier.
arguing. You're just being
I know,
argumentative.
it's
No,
easier today. Maybe he's
because,
hangry.
like,
being grout. Are
He's
you
gotta be
hungry?
angry. All right, let's move on. We're moving on here to Bryan's section. Bryan's got a little section. It's a fun section called Bryan's Buy or Sell. So I want to introduce Bryan, the meat guy.
Yeah. How are you? All right. So we got some good stuff here, guys. We're going to buy or sell. I'm going to read a statement and then we're going to go around and you're going to buy or sell. You can give a little elevator pitch, Amir, not a chapter in a book response. So number one here we go. Agencies offer the best business model in the ecom and D2C space. Jimmy, what do you think about that?
Ooh, what do you mean by
Business
that?
model meaning startup costs and margins, let's just say. Startup costs, margins, and scalability.
I buy that all day. Data distribution. The people who sit in the middle make the most money.
Software, a lot of work. Brand,
Product, a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Agencies
Agencies
just
best dollar in the
sides.
middle. Yeah, you make the most money. How do you feel about that, Amir?
I don't buy it.
All right, keep going. Okay, go. What do you say?
What do you say?
You say brand, buy or sell, and move on. Yeah, go ahead. That's it. Buy or sell.
I also
buy it?
I also buy.
Okay.
All right, number 2. An agency can always run your ads better than your in-house team.
All right. I will sell on that because I don't believe that it's the best, but I believe an agency can do good enough.
And it might be more efficient.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I sell.
Same exact line.
So
Wow, we agreed. All right.
I thought you were just gonna say it.
All right.
All right, number 3.
I buy. Okay, I'm kidding.
You should not hire an agency until you do more than $5 million.
I sell on that. I think that you should hire an agency in areas that you don't understand.
I agree there. I agree there because a lot of them that work, especially on like your percentage modeling, right? It doesn't necessarily cost you that much.
No,
right?
not at all.
John, Amir?
So I don't think it's as straightforward. I'm like somewhat in the
You got to buy or sell. buddy.
Buy or sell.
no. I can do what I want.
That's what he wants. All right.
No.
Go to America.
So really quick. So the reality is, in the beginning, maybe it's not fives, but it's like sub $2 million brand. Like you need to understand all the sides of the
You need to be able
business.
to do things. 100%.
Yeah, so
I agree with you on that.
I think now you're later in career and understanding. It might make sense for you to agency, but
All right, here we go. Number 4.
I'm with you and Jimmy.
Okay, thanks, Amir. Number 4, performance-based pricing is the only fair way for agencies to charge.
I buy that. I believe in that a bit. And the reason why I'm going to argue back with it is, dude, humans are wired to work harder when they make more money off of what they're executing.
depends on that motivation-wise.
Motivation, right? Maybe it's not flat pricing. Maybe it's tiered pricing. But I think agencies could do a better job and say, John, if I can increase your paid ads from today's baseline and get you 10% more revenue, I want this much money. At 20%, I get this much more money. What incentive do you have to lose if they can do 10, 20, 30, 40%? You pay them a little bit more money. The outcome is way bigger for that side. So I actually sell on that. I think that people have done a poor job and they've taken from people too much that they've created a bad outcome from this. Performance is the name of the game, man.
I don't disagree. I think like a hybrid.
Yeah, a hybrid, but performance is the name of the game. I just think that agencies have done a poor job creating that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it also depends on what agency we're talking about, a Perella or a paid ad agency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but the thing
Yeah,
is, the really hard part to manage in all this, I wish it was an easy answer, is market. Because market can swing in the favor of you or vice versa, and that confuses things.
Well, that's why it's performance. You get paid less if you're not doing well, right? So if I go to John and I manage his paid ads, right, and I do worse, then I should get less money than that it is.
No, but I'm saying market, like COVID happens or buyer sentiment goes down.
But everyone's making more money, then they should all make more money together. If COVID happens and things take off and everyone's spending more money, why am I not getting more money for
Because
making more money? Just
as a
because of
brand, I would
economics.
ask, are you causing this or is the brand causing this?
Yeah, but you're not asking that during the time.
You don't do that to your employees.
So we brought a brand on. We brought an agency on, the one prior to Sweatpants.
Yeah.
We brought them on in 2020, and in the beginning of the year, they started off with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Ecom is great. Then we gave them the Netflix TV show in July.
Yeah.
So, and then that led into Q4.
They did great.
Their first year, they absolutely crushed it. We weren't asking those questions. because we're all winning.
Yeah.
We're winning together.
When you're winning,
now,
it doesn't matter.
Now
you're only
we
questioning when you're losing.
When we went into the next year and then the winning wasn't there and the losing was there, then we looked at it.
Yeah.
If we're all winning, everybody should win.
Last one, which we touched upon a little bit before, was brands should cycle through new agencies every few years to stay innovative and ahead. I'm going to sell that as well.
I kind of buy that. Because if you're doing a good job in your brand, look, I'm gonna use an example real quick. I know I'm being the mayor here today, but if I'm a brand and I've gone from $1 million when I signed an agency at 3 years ago, and I'm doing $20 million in 3 years later, I might have outgrown that agency.
That's a fair point.
So that's honestly not. Yeah, you're right.
You should now. Not all agencies. Many agencies will scale with you,
right?
Like Ameris with you, but not all agencies do. Yeah. If I'm a 7-figure agency,
you may have to go to Taylor now.
Correct. That's right. Why do you graduate? It's just like tool setting. You graduate. So I think that's right. I actually think that maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. I don't know what that cycle.
All depends
it probably depends on where you are
of your business.
Yeah. So that's why I sell.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Why? I mean, I buy that.
That was the last one.
That's a wrap, guys. Agencies, episode 31. Why agencies suck. I think we went all over the place. That was real spicy. But guys, if you enjoyed this pod, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell us what you think about it. And follow us on social media, TikTok, X, IG, LinkedIn, YouTube. Just type in ASOM Pod to find us. And don't forget to leave us a review or rating on your favorite podcast streaming, Apple, Spotify, or wherever all the crazy Android users use. Remember, we're a video first podcast. We fly location to location to shoot this together as a team, not only for the dynamics and what we just experienced here on this pod, but we want the highest quality experience that we can provide you. And don't forget to subscribe to awesompod.com if you enjoy our unfiltered spicy takes. There's no arguments there. It's just really just unfiltered takes of things, and it can be things. With that, we're coming back with next week's episode. Next week, we're going to be talking about the art of dying sales, or the art of sales in e-commerce and more. So we're going to talk about salespeople essentially and why it's working or it's not working and how we see the future of that going in. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the ASOM Pod, where we talked a lot. Ecom was the path that we walked a lot. But now the question is, will you subscribe or not?